I'm gonna take off my hat so you guys can see what I really look like.
Oh God. I
didn't
wash
say
my
put
hair.
it back on.
You want me to put it back on?
No.
Alright, welcome everybody to the dedication of the Rose Johnson Memorial at Lakeside Park. My name is Scott Zettervall. I knew Rose through serving on City Council with her. I will remember Rose for her love of her children. She talked about them often, how they were doing at school, when she last saw them. I remember Rose for her care for the youth. She volunteered frequently for our youth at the WAVE Center for the Youth. I remember Rose for her love of the lakes and her desire to protect them. We talked frequently about what we wanted to do to protect our lakes and our jewel we have here at Lakeside Park. I remember Rose for her love of Big Lake. This was her home. She was an active participant in making it better. She really cared about Big Lake. My favorite memories of Rose will be the long conversations we had about all of these things. Rose was so caring, so giving, so passionate, so intelligent, and tenacious. Rose is respected, admired, missed, and Rose will be remembered. This is a perfect memorial for Rose Johnson, this bench. It's a place for conversation, for reflection, and for relaxation and rest. I'm honored to have known Rose. Thank you. I'm going to hand it over to Mayor Mike Wallen.
I'd like to say thanks to everybody for coming, and I would like to a special thanks to Scott Zettervall, Peter Potter, for making this all happen. It's one of those things I don't think anybody really wants to have to do in their lifetime. Unlike most people that are in a political position, I don't write things down, I just wing it. So bear with me for a second here. My dad taught me at a very young age that nobody gets out of life alive. We all understand that. And there are two dates that are chiseled in concrete or in marble and in stone, and it's the day you were born and the day you die. But there's that dash in between them, and that dash that indicates and is significant about your life and what you have done. That dash for Rose, I was blessed to have 3 years of a relationship and experiences with Rose. And Scott hit on, I think, everything that was really, really important. But the one thing I want everybody to understand, Rose and I were 180 degrees out on political views. And oh man, did we have some serious discussions that, well, you can understand how that would go. But a couple of things really stick out with me. Rose was dedicated to the city, and I can remember one of the conversations that we had, and she looked at me afterwards and she said, Mike, I will never ever vote to try and get, or I will never vote on something to try and gain votes from some of the people to get reelected. And she looked at me right in the eye and she said, and that's what I respect about you, you won't either. That was one thing that I thought was extremely, extremely telling about Rose. And the other example was, one night I had gone off and done something as mayor that really, really pissed her off. Those of you that at that council meeting, it really, really pissed her off. And Rose made it known very clearly that she was extremely upset with me. After the conversation and we had talked through everything, at the end of it she came up to me and she put her hand on my shoulder and she said, Mike, you know that wasn't personal, right? I said, of course I know that wasn't personal, Rose. But I knew she wasn't done with me yet. And she proved it that next week. But she was also willing to listen to both sides of everything, which I think was very significant. I have been blessed to be on the council for 10 years, and I have served with some tremendously great council members. Rose will go up as probably the top of that list. I will miss her every day. I will think about her every day, and every time I have to cast a vote, she will be right there with me. So thanks everybody for coming. I'd like to turn it over to Chief Joel Sharp.
Try to keep my memory short too. The year that Rose came onto the city council was a very unique time for us. We had 3 very significant personnel issues that took place within the city. Some of them public, some of them not public. And I had the opportunity to work with her one-on-one through a lot of these. One-on-one with Administrator Wilford. But we had some very serious discussions in back rooms, and it became very clear her understanding of labor law, her ability to wrap her mind around very complex issues, come out with a very courageous approach to dealing with it, and never looking back in how she followed through. And I earned tremendous respect for the way she could do that and never waver from what she felt, even with a lot of things going on around us. So with that, I also had an interaction with Rose. She could always make you laugh. She had a big smile on her face when you'd see her and you see Andy out walking around the lake. But she could shred you too. And we had a interaction. Deputy Chief Hayen was there over COVID when it first started. And it happened so fast. When she left, I looked at Matt and said, I think I just got shredded, but it was so fast, I don't even know if that's what it was. I just felt like I was stinging when we were done. And after reflecting on our interaction for about an hour, the part that was funny is when she left, we were laughing, because she always would interact, leave, and had a smile on her face. It was, like the mayor said, never personal. It was just, she just was so eloquent. So, yeah, I learned a lot that day. I really did, that we don't all see things the same way, and it was good to reflect on it. So, and with that, the journey that we've had through this for not only myself, Deputy Chief Hayen, everybody in our department and community has really been life-changing, and everybody who was blessed to interact with Rose left a better person, so, and probably a stronger person. And I'll leave it to Bettina.
First of all, Rose would tell you to get moving, so let's go.
If you have us all breaking out into dance.
No, I promise I won't be doing any dancing. However, she would be rolling her eyes right now as I do this. And do this, because I've never used cards to talk. So many of her communities have reached out to me and our community. And it's my job today to share some of those community thoughts, others' communities, with you, so that you go away with a little piece of those. So from her siblings, they have told me she was a prankster like none other, right? She developed her power of persuasion at a very young age. She was able to convince her older brothers that jumping on a dead cow would be like a trampoline and a ton of fun. So let's just go do it. Well, of course she didn't jump, so they got in trouble. No shock there. Rose loved being a lawyer, listening, persuading, and finding common ground. As a young lawyer, she dyed her hair gray because she thought it needed to complement wisdom. Rose was all about family, right? She lost her mom at a very young age, and she worked really, really hard throughout the years to keep in touch with her siblings and to keep her siblings in touch with one another. Family was so important to her. From her colleagues at AT&T, they want me to share. She was caring and supportive as a friend and a manager. She was a great lawyer with excellent judgment. We could all learn a thing or two from her integrity and her loyalty to friends. She still kept in touch with her college roommate. She was so very loyal. She worked diligently to make our world a better place. From her niece, Shauna, she wrote me pages, but she refers to her Aunt Rose as always a voice of reason and wisdom, good sense of discernment, keen ability to communicate her findings, and she never wavered, standing firm in the face of opposition. She had a soft spot for people, as we all know in this town, regardless of how their background or beliefs differed from her own. And on the outside, a layer of protection. Some would say thorns. But those that chose to discover her beauty beyond the thorns were in for a treat. We're so very blessed that we had our Rose. She had a group called the Beta Sisters. And in all my conversations at the beginning of time, I thought this was her sorority crowd. What did I know? So these were a group of ladies that got together, became friends on the internet, joined in friendship and sisters of the heart over the struggles with having children. And these lovely ladies have worked with myself and Molly to create a wonderful memorial for the WAVE Youth Association Center. We have a table already that has been donated, and Molly can fill you in on the details of that. But that memorial fund we hope to be sustaining and go towards our youth. The sisters will say she always inspired us to do our very best, to always be our very best. She was respected and adored. She left her sisters better than she found them, whether it was in conversation or in personal meeting. And most of these ladies did not meet personally. There's like 50 of them in this group, 35 pretty active, and it was all online and video chat and all this kind of stuff, far over my head, but anyway. And they want us to know that she will be held forever in their hearts. So I met Rose through our love of the lakes. We both went through the same search to find a place to live. 2 years of looking throughout Minnesota at various lakes. We wanted a small town, close enough to the city, and we had all of these shared interests. But primary, it started with the lake. Our community activism was really important in our discussions, representing everyone less fortunate. Every day, we talked about doing the most good. Do the most good. Don't say it, do it. Relationships mattered. They mattered so much to her, whether it was family, friends, colleagues. They really mattered. We shared a love for mentoring young people, particularly women. But we also had a competitive streak, and so we loved to play games, mind games as well, with one another. A lot of conversation and laughter. Can't tell you the hours, can't tell you the times I received a text that said, "You need to talk me off the edge here. Call me when you have 3 hours." And I'm thinking, that's going to be a long time. So I made sure my phone was charged and I had a lot of place to walk. Because I know she was doing the same thing. You know, she loved to scuba dive, and I like to swim. We talked about our love of coffee and wine. Oh, we could talk forever on those two subjects. She loved rock and roll, and I didn't understand this. I completely did not get it. I was a blues, jazz, and country person. So we had a lot of dialogue about trying to correct each other. Let's just leave it at that. I love to dance, and she thought old people shouldn't dance, and I said, I'm never going to grow up, so I'm going to dance. And she says, I'm not going to grow up either. So there were great conversations. She loved her exercise, as you all know. She believed in doing it every single day to give her a clear mind. And I would encourage you guys to do what you can to come down, visit with her, take part in this lovely memorial. Rose would tell you her greatest accomplishment was becoming a mom. She worked so very hard to become a mom. She left her career very early so that she could really allocate all of her efforts to her family. She was very involved in their lives. Scott has touched on it. I will tell you that, you know, some things you might not know, that she sewed theater costumes and did other things like that, but she was so very proud of that accomplishment. We had a conversation about COVID early on this year, and I texted her and I said, "You're such a great mom." And she goes, "Well, I'm not sure I'm a great mom, but I'm trying like hell." And that's how we should remember her, right? She always tried to do her level best. She listened to everybody, and she wanted to be a part, an absolute part of our community. And she was a part of so many other communities here as well. Thank you again for contributing and for coming to this event. I would like to open it up to others that might have some words to say. Andy?
Sure. You know, she didn't know how to swim.
That's why she did scuba diving.
Just wanted to share 42 years worth of life together. Too much to talk about here. But she taught me a few really good lessons. One in 1984, when she dragged me away from Minnesota kicking and screaming because I had no conception that any place else could be worthwhile. And she dragged me to Marin County. You may think it's insane that someone would not want to go to Marin County, but it took me months to warm up to paradise. And the next thing that she did for me, I was extremely reluctant to have children. In fact, when she was 30, she got the bug. Her career was way too busy, mine was way too busy, and I eventually gave up my career and stayed home for the first 6 years to take care of them so she could finish her career. But I talked her out of it, and it was the right thing to do. I would have been a terrible father at that time. When she was 40, she said, "I'm going to have them with you or without you." And she would. And I thought to myself, well, the world would like to have children with male influence, I think. So we went through a very interesting process, but we got lucky, and we got 2 healthy, wonderful children. And although I had the reluctance, it took no time. And what they taught me now is unconditional love. And I know that my purpose in life is to help my son, because he desperately needs help, working to that goal, and help my daughter through this terrible time. And that's what I learned from them. And then Rose, true to form, we were going to be selling the house we were living in Blaine when my children graduated from high school, and we would be showing it while they were still in the spring, and I was fixing it up, painting, and getting it ready to market. And she said, "Well, why don't we have an exchange student for a year?" And I'm going, another high school senior in my house? And what an absolute blessing. And she has declared that I'm her favorite father, and that is unbelievably flattering. She's a wonderful, wonderful human being. And I just was FaceTiming with her before I ran out the door. What Rose taught me is that fatherhood, being a good father, matters, because her father wasn't, and she really needed a father and couldn't say no. So that's I wish I could talk for hours.
Thanks. Anybody else? Sure.
You know, my father was a good father, no matter what that shit did.
My first interaction with Rose was on the EDA. We had put out a need that we had a spot to fill on EDA. Rose applied. And a lot of times we always struggled with people that would apply for these different openings to get involved in the community at the local level. So she applied, and it was just kind of a blowing away experience as to how much she brought. She was appointed onto the EDA, and what she brought to that board was just simply amazing. She rose to be the on the financial committee with one of another long-serving EDA members that happens to be an administrator for another community. But what she just brought in her intelligence, her passion for this community was, I don't have words for it. So when there came a time to run for a position on council, I reached out to her and I said, you know, you would be awesome at the council level. You would just bring so much to the board and serving the community. And she kind of thought, oh gosh, I don't know. This is such a red district. I don't know if I'd have an opportunity, if I'd have a chance. And I said, but Rose, you have passion for the community. At this level of government, it should never matter what your political affiliations are. This is about community. This is about solving the issues for the community, about making your community a better place. Any of those other political beliefs and stuff, they belong up the ladder, not at your local level. So please, I encourage you to step out and sign up. And she said, well, I'll give it some thought. And I was so happy to see that she made the decision to do that. She did say, though, she said, I'm going to campaign probably more on social media than getting out and about, because I just think in the back of her head she was thinking, you know, seriously, it's a red district. What am I doing? But she came in third, which I think was a pretty significant accomplishment in our red district when she was running against a incumbent council member that was a great council person, running against another person that really, they came in one of the top two, and Rose came in third. And when I won the seat that I was going for down at the county to represent the community, that left a vacancy that had to be filled. So we were just at an election. We just walked away from the polls. My comment to my fellow council members was, the voters they've stepped up and they spoke. Rose third. Let's pick her and then move up from council to fill my seat. And she just stepped into that realm, and she did exactly what I knew she would do. She embraced it. She embraced our community, and as we can all can tell, that was only a few short 2 years, and look what she accomplished. She touched the hearts of this community and the hearts of our council and our staff and everybody that interacted with her. Anybody that would call up and ask her or talk to her about any of the issues that the council was dealing with, she was there to have that conversation. That is truly what you want at this local level in anybody that sits on council to represent you, and Rose did it amazingly well. I'd love to reach out to her and have conversations. This is still my community that I'm very passionate about, so she did hear from me quite often. And I just cannot say how blessed I am to have had the opportunity to have served with Rose, having met with Rose, and she definitely pushed to strive to make our community better. She pushed to strive to leave it in better than what she found it, and she accomplished that. And I cannot say enough good things about that woman. And it's telling in what is around here and everybody that's here to show their love and passion for our Rose. And this memorial is just awesome to have in that. I'm sorry. Thank you all for coming.
Anybody else have a few words? So we are just very grateful to have you here. We know it's a difficult time. We invite you all to come back to the police department, library, community room. There's a tribute over outside the police department of a plaque and 2 rose bushes in honor of Rose that was put in by Chief Scharf and Deputy Chief Han. It might be worth a look. And then we're going to gather in the community room for conversation, coffee, and cookies. So we know how she loved to communicate and have conversation. Please join us if you're able. We would love to have you there. Thank you so very much for coming. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.